Hello, I'm Dr. Catherine Hayward. Welcome to Please Continue, I'm Listening. This insightful conversation is with Kim Campbell, who is a chef, educator, parent, author, and director of culinary development and education at PlantPure. We had the joy of connecting during the pandemic when we both had some time to have a video conference call, so please excuse the limitations of the Zoom platform. During her years of helping people transition to whole plant-based eating, Kim has noticed that people get caught up in minor details. For her, the beauty of eating whole grains, legumes, fruits, vegetables from the sea and earth, and listening to your body's messages about hunger, satisfaction, and fullness means that you never again have to measure, count calories, or harshly judge yourself. Kim has authored several cookbooks, including PlantPure Nation, the PlantPure Kitchen, and PlantPure Comfort Food. She has developed more than 350 delicious whole food plant-based recipes using no processed oils. In her work at PlantPure, she collaborates with her husband, Nelson Campbell, building an organization that promotes a whole plant-based diet. Nelson directed and produced the groundbreaking movie PlantPure Nation, within which both Kim and I appear. In her work at PlantPure, she collaborates with her husband, Nelson Campbell, building an organization that promotes a whole food plant-based diet. Nelson directed and produced the groundbreaking movie PlantPure Nation, within which both Kim and I appear. With her father-in-law, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, her husband, and others in the Campbell family and their colleagues, Kim works to bring awareness and practical strategies to those who want to prevent illness. Kim's love of culinary arts goes back to her early childhood, growing up in a large traditional family. Kim is gifted at creating traditional American cuisine using 100% accessible plant-based ingredients. She builds flavors and textures that are familiar to most people, helping to make the transition to a plant-based diet easier for people. So Kim, please continue. We're listening. So Kim Campbell, I'm so happy to be here with you today. Thank you so much for joining me and talking with me.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
And so we've had lots of conversations over the years. We've gotten together here and there over the years in mutually interesting conferences and projects and other things. And I'm just thrilled to have you as the PlantPure chef and PlantPure Nation, PlantPure communities be part of Living Whole Online, because our program is an integrative health program. So it's not just food, not just movement, not just mind, body, spirit, not just conventional medicine. It's all of those things brought together. And so one of the things you and I have talked about over the years is the complexity of taking a particular approach to food, and how it's not just about what people choose to eat, but it's the free will that they use as they approach their food choices. And so one of the things that is interesting to me when I'm counseling people toward eating whole food plant-based is that some people can get really caught up in the little details, and that there's a sense, especially in the vegan community, of looking at little micronutrients and getting very focused on things like that. And one of the things that I've loved about your father-in-law's book, Whole, is that he talks about how important it is to just think of this whole thing as a symphony. And so I'm wondering if you could just talk to us a bit about your philosophy as it relates to a whole health approach like Living Whole Online has?
It is a symphony, Catherine. I mean, this is just, he just puts it so beautifully. We live in a society where we've been encouraged to take vitamins, to read our labels, and to think about food in terms of groups. I remember when I was in college, I was studying nutrition, and it was all about the 4 basic food groups. Hang on one second, I'm getting a call. It was all about the 4 basic food groups, and then it went to the food pyramid, and we were just so fixated on putting foods in groups. So it was hard for me as a 19, 20-year-old college student to get away from that. And so I have really implemented Colin's philosophy to eat a whole food, plant-based diet that's rich in variety. And I think that as people go into this, they want to fixate on the pieces and the parts instead of just thinking, oh, okay, well, today I'm going to have a lot of sweet potatoes and maybe a salad, and I'm not going to think about it too much. But if you Google it, look up what's in your sweet potatoes and your salad, suddenly you might feel like, oh, well, according to the guidelines, I'm deficient in this, that, or the other. And that's what's so beautiful about this diet is you don't have to overthink it. If you're eating the rainbow and you're eating variety and you're changing things up day by day, I think it's perfectly fine. And then as we get better at the diet thing, then people start to worry about little things like how much salt should I put in my food, or can I have any sugar on my food, and can I have coffee, and is stevia bad for you? All these little details. And I guess it's okay to think about it, but I think it takes all the pleasure out of food and life and what food does for us. And I tell people all the time, don't major in minor details. You'll get better at it and better at it. And then pretty soon you'll reflect and think, I remember 10 years ago when I did this, or I was eating those veggie burgers. I just think it's really, really important to enjoy this process. Food is such a pleasurable part of our life, and there's so many benefits to eating a whole food, plant-based diet. And if you fall off the wagon, that's okay. Just get right back on and do it again, because your body will heal and correct and do the right thing. But I think there's some psychology, which you could probably attest to, Catherine, that people, if they do something the wrong way, they get so down on themselves and they feel like they failed and forget it, I'm not going to keep doing it. It's a process, it's a journey. And Nelson and I are still on the journey. We're still getting better at it. Hope I answered that question.
Well, you're talking about how people get down on themselves. One of the things I love that you have developed over the past few years is this idea of pods, little communities of people who can be supportive of each other. Do you see that when somebody's trying to transition from a mainstream diet to a whole food plant-based diet, and they're in a pod and they go down the path of being hard on themselves, that the pod helps them?
Yes, I think in every aspect of our life, having a community, having friendship, and having people who are trying to have the same goals and values that you have makes it a lot easier. I just think about my examples when I remember when I was raising kids and I was in a community with a lot of at-home moms. And I remember thinking, why is my child doing this? And then I would talk to other moms and they're all going through the same thing. So it gave me a sense of relief and confidence in my parenting. It's the same thing with, changing your diet. I think if you're having questions and you feel like you're not doing it the right way, when you gather together with a group of people who are trying to do the same thing, you realize that other people are having the same struggles, or they give you ideas on how to overcome some of those hurdles. We have a great pod and they're so supportive. And we have people who are, super extreme and they're at different points in their journey. And then we have people who are just starting, who come in they bring, the chips with the oil and they think it's plant-based. And then the other people who don't do it, but they all come together and nobody makes snide comments, or we're just all a really nice group, kind of like our pod family, which is really nice. Yeah.
The pods are one of the ways that you and Nelson have come up with how to support people. Another way that you've come up with is you've got a line of food, both frozen food, and now you've got a new product out, I believe, that people can purchase on the internet, and that can help them by just having food get delivered right to their homes. That's something, as a physician who works a lot with people who are trying to make this transition, that I use a lot. I send people to your website all the time. So talk to us a little bit about those two lines of products and what you think are exciting about them.
Yeah, one of the reasons we started this line was because we wanted people to be able to do it. A lot of people get overwhelmed with just the idea of being vegan and plant-based. So this took all of I guess it took all the challenges out of it. So we started out with a frozen line and we put it on our website. We were fortunate enough to get into the supermarkets. So we're in Publix, we're in Shaw's, we're in Lowe's. And in the supermarkets, we have 5 different entrees. And we've had a lot of success with that. We have burritos that are coming out, frozen burritos. Of course, the competition is stiff, but there's no other brand out there that doesn't use oil and minimizes salts and sugars, which is what we do. Then we took it to another level because we wanted people to be able to do a little bit of cooking. Because some people don't want to just open up frozen food. And we wanted them to be able to cook a little bit, add their fresh produce to it. But we took all the guessing out of the cheese sauce and the different spice blends and things like that. So then we created a dry line. We call them our meal starters. We have 12. I think 2 are dressings and 10 are entrees. We have veggie balls and meatballs and not meatballs, veggie balls and veggie burgers, macaroni and cheese. We have fettuccine alfredo. We have a whole bunch, and I will definitely leave it out if I try to, recite each and every one. But it's been really nice. We have it here, and I use it occasionally because sometimes I get really busy at the end of the day. Nelson can cook these meals just like that. We were traveling last weekend, and I didn't want to go out to dinner. So I said, how about we go to the grocery store and get some PlantPure food? And we did. We got 2 entrees, and it was really nice. We took it back to our Airbnb, and that's what we had. So that's what we want to do for people, is either supplement or show them, go ahead and do the whole 10 days and try all the food. And then you get some idea about, this is how I do it. And then people transition maybe away from it. We have people that use the frozen food all the time, though. They haven't given it up. It's very good.
Another thing that you have done that is very influential for people is you've been involved in films. The way I got to know you was through the film PlantPure Nation, which came out in 2015. And since then, you've had some other film projects. Can you talk to us about those?
Yeah, so we did PlantPure Nation. You were one of our key physicians in PlantPure Nation. And of course, Forks Over Knives was not our film, but our producer also helped to produce Forks Over Knives. So we're working on another film called Healing America. I'm not going to give too much of it away, but it's an interesting story. PlantPure Nation was about why you haven't heard this information. This is kind of a continuation because we're still not really hearing about it, and we've lived in very difficult times the last year and a half. So a lot of that will be talked about in the film. Nelson's really excited about it, but this one's called Healing America, and he will be hitting the road actually next weekend. And our film team we've already got really fun stories that we're working on and that they're going to be filming. So that's Nelson's story to tell, but I'm excited about it. I think I'm going to become a documentary widow.
Oh, dear.
So we really feel like this story needs to be told, so it'll be interesting.
It really, really needs to be told. And it's one of the reasons I'm so grateful that you guys are part of Living Whole Online, because I hope Living Whole Online is one way that the story can get told.
The good that came out, there is some good that came out of this. I think one of the things is people are realizing that a lot of the information we're given is false because it's changing so much. And of course, there was an election and things were blowing up that way. But in a way, I feel like, wow, even the Republicans, the Democrats, whatever you are, everybody's realizing that we've been lied to, that the media and big corporations are not telling people the truth. And I think it's taken this for people to really get it. And it's not a partisan issue. It shouldn't be. It never was. So I think that's the good part about this. I mean, if you can find, you can find the positive side of a pandemic, I guess.
What are the lies that you see that have become clear that they're lies?
Well, I think that the health information, not telling us that you're most susceptible when you have underlying health conditions, that really, and all of the underlying health conditions are based on lifestyle, most of them, except for age. You can't help that you're 85 or 90, but nowhere, this is what drives Nelson crazy, is nowhere has anyone, including Fauci, including, who's the doctor on CNN? He's just a Sanjay Gupta. None of them have talked about prevention. In fact, Sanjay Gupta we have it, we're going to use it. He did an advertisement on how to cook out and social distance, and he was flipping hamburgers at the same time. And he knows, Colin, he's read the China study. I think he's pretty much plant-based, but he's never uttered it because he's chained to CNN, right? Mm-hmm. So I think those are the lies that really frustrate me. The advertisements for all the pharmaceutical drugs that are out there, and the way they structure those advertisements, it looks as though you're eating everything you possibly can eat that's healthy, you're moving, you're active. If you look at those ads, you think, oh, they're actually really lovely to look at, but that's not the case when somebody really has diabetes. They don't look like that. They're not shopping that way. And then the advertisement always goes to, when diet and lifestyle don't work, try this. So we want to tell that story to the pharmaceutical, how our networks are controlled by large corporations, food corporations. We'll never, ever have plant-based, healthy cooking shows because the Food Network is owned by Kraft and all these other companies. So, yeah, I guess that's a long answer to a short question, but what are your opinions about that?
I am completely in agreement with you. And I think this is part of why we decided to do this next iteration of Living Whole Online, so that we could reach people who would be interested in having access to a program that has conventionally trained physicians who think this way, and has movement specialists, food specialists, and then mind, body, spirit disciplines like moving energy, but also art and music and writing, and the people that are the thought leaders in our culture right now, because things are so chaotic and so uncertain. We need to be able to put a lot of great minds and energies together to be able to see the silver linings of what we're going through. The earth clearly is going through a giant change, and every culture on the planet's going through a giant change. And
you think there's more of this?
I think if you subscribe, as I do, to the idea that these novel viruses come from animals and they jump species, I believe that that's where this came from.
Yeah, I do too.
Then when you look at how humans have encroached upon the animal kingdom, whether it's taking over their habitats, or whether it's how much and what types of animal products people are consuming,
Mm-hmm.
it only makes sense that you have viruses moving species. And, you figure that viruses have been around for about 3.5 billion years longer than humans.
Yeah.
They're the originals on the planet. And so they have figured out how to survive.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of different types of planetary changes in those 3.5 billion years. And so I think we are at a critical point in our way of being on this planet, and that this pandemic is giving us lots of information about that. Not only that the virus leapt over into our species and has caused the trouble it's causing, but when you see what humans do when they quarantine and they stop flying and they stop driving their cars and they stop polluting as much as we used to, how the earth recovers fairly quickly. There's a lot of really beautiful stuff, especially on the internet.
That is true. Things have changed a lot. I remember, was it last summer, thinking how clear the air looked and the sky, and because nobody was doing anything. My role at PlantPure is culinary development and education. So I love to educate people on how to do this and how to support each other, how to set up pods, and all of the community stuff, the food stuff. I love doing that. So I do on Thursday nights, which we are actually phasing out this week. Tonight is one of our last regular shows that we'll be doing, but I do a cook-along, so people can join me on Thursday nights. They can gather all their ingredients because I send them a grocery list, and we cook together. And they ask questions live, and it's been really nice. We've done almost 50 shows, classes, shows, whatever you want to call it. And we're gonna continue to do them, but just not on a regular basis because we're losing our film team to the documentary. But that is truly my passion. I think the thing that's been the hardest is not seeing the faces in front of me, because I do cooking classes in my community, and I haven't seen faces in a long time. I miss that. Yeah.
Well, we're excited that you've allowed us to include some of your cooking classes in Living Whole Online.
Oh, that's right. You are including some of those. Yeah.
Pretty delicious.
We're going to be doing more. We have an RX program that our physicians are using, and we have an education program called our PlantPure Seminar. It used to be PlantPure Health and Weight Loss, but they're using our seminar, and some of, if people want to, they can use our meal starters. And then all of the videos that I've been doing will be embedded into the RX program as well. So no excuses. People will have all the information in front of them. So.
And the RX program, that is focused on having physicians be involved?
Yes, physicians are going to be involved, and they're going to be, prescribing the RX program, which is the education program, and there's four components to it. People go through the education program, and then there's food if they want to order the food. So it kind of takes the pressure off of the physicians because we do the education part of it. So, yeah. We're just kind of just getting started with that, Catherine. We've got a couple of plant-based telehealth, Dr. Lori Marbus, and you might be interested as well. Plant-Trition Project is interested in this. So I think this is going to be fantastic, because I think it's going to take a lot of the pressure off of the doctors, because then they can just prescribe this program, which is nice.
Yeah, I'm interviewing Lori tomorrow. I'm excited to talk to her.
She'll probably talk about it. She's a wonderful physician.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we have going on at PlantPure. It's a lot.
It's wonderful. It's such amazing resources. I was saying to Colin when I talked to him a couple of weeks ago that when I first read the China study, I read the book and I thought, I've been doing a really bad job as a doctor. I've been doing a really bad job as a person taking care of my health. Now what do I do? And there were no resources. There were no resources really. And now, less than 2 decades later, a person can read the China study and then can go to PlantPure, and there are plenty of resources. It's pretty impressive. I said to him in the interview, it's pretty impressive that something that that revolutionary has only taken less than 2 decades to get to a place where there's this kind of outreach and this amount of resources.
Well, and I'm sure Colin told you this too, because as people go through this process, they want to take a deeper dive into plant-based and the science, so they sign up for the CNS course. It's a nutrition course, and I took it a couple of times. I went through it, and it's a wonderful program. If you want to get, your plant-based certificate through Colin's nonprofit organization, it just doesn't get any better than that. So I would strongly urge people, if they're getting into education or getting into culinary education or any kind of plant-based health and wellness, to understand why you're doing it is so important. And even myself, I've been immersed in this for I don't know how many years. When I took the course, I thought, oh, that's a really good way to say that. That's a really good example. So I think even if you think you know it all, and many people know a lot of stuff, but that course really puts it together and makes it really cohesive. Did you I'm sure you took it, Catherine.
I didn't. My husband David took it, because in our program he sort of heads up the food side of things, and I had other duties, but it's something that's on my list of wanting to do. Yeah.
Well, you probably already dove into a lot of those topics, but I think there are many people out there teaching culinary classes or, doing education, and I just think having that extra little certificate and knowledge is important.
No, it really is, and it's a beautiful course.
It's very well done, and they just reworked it about a year ago. Maybe it's longer than that, but it's a beautiful course. And lots of different plant-based doctors are in there. And there's a lot of different resources. There's so many resources out there in the plant-based world, and there's some great organizations doing wonderful things. PCRM, nutritionfacts.org, Dr. McDougall. I mean, there's some great plant-based educators out there.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
So how do you see plant-based eating, a plant-based lifestyle, fitting into this holistic kind of approach that Living Whole Online is encouraging people into? For instance, people in who are focused on PlantPure as their community, why would they want to expand and come and be members of Living Whole Online?
Because as you become plant-based, I don't know what it is, but you become more aware of, you start to feel better, right? And you have this aha moment, and you start to become aware of everything around you that affects your health, right? Before, you weren't thinking about it. You were eating burgers and fries and Coke and not thinking about it, not feeling good, not sleeping. And then suddenly you feel better. You feel connected to your food. Now you start cooking your food, and you realize this is good for me. It's good for the environment. And that's a huge one in our world. It's good for our mind. People suddenly want to connect spiritually. And that's what I love about what you're doing, is you're putting all the pieces together for people, because it's not just about what you put in your mouth. I think that's the beginning of so much more. I've seen so many people begin to heal and realize that this is not just the food. There's more to it. But I think sometimes it's hard to see all of the aspects to it until you start to feel better. Does that make sense? It's just really interesting to watch people go from being fat, sick, and nearly dead, to healthy, connected. They're kind. They're nice. They're friendly. They're happy. And so I think that what you do is you put all of those pieces together really beautifully. And I think sometimes that's what's missing in the plant-based community, is that we need to, and so a lot of people are working on this, but I think we need to pay attention to all of those other pieces to it. Yeah. And Nelson and I definitely pay attention to all of that. It's for us, it's not just about the food, it's about mental health, it's about spirituality, it's about connections with people, happiness, which is mental health, but it's all of those pieces. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's really beautifully said, and I hope that people that have found their way into the PlantPure community will find their way into the Living Whole community, because I think there's a lot of synergy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the facilitator group, like you, like Nelson, like Colin, like John, Corey, are people who, sort of came to their perspective on life through the food doorway, and then had their horizons be amplified.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I think you have to get people well enough so that they can begin to start to connect in those other avenues. Yeah. I love what you do. I think it's wonderful, and I think that more people should be aware of what you are doing. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Thank you. Well, this iteration of Living Whole Online has been such a revelation for me, because between the Living Whole Online that we did last summer, that you were part of, we sort of took some time in the fall to see what was going to happen with the election in the United States, and see what was going to happen with the vaccine, and to see if there was really a need for what we do. And during that time, it became so clear to me that in addition to what we usually put into our retreats, food, movement, mind, body, spirit, energy type practices, that we needed to bring in the artists, the musicians, the writers, the filmmakers, the photographers, the people who are responding to this chaotic and uncertain time through those creative expressions, so that those of us who are really struggling with how to be in this time of newness would have some people that could be helping to guide. And so I've been having just the greatest joy of these interviews with people where I'm talking to artists and musicians and writers about how they're thinking about things, and looking at their art and listening to their music and reading what they're writing. And it's so enriching. And you've said the word happiness and joy a number of times. That's really what I feel. That these adding this to Living Whole Online is just giving me a great deal of joy.
That's the goal, right? In the end, that's all that we want. Everybody wants to be happy and connected, and that's the goal. Yeah. And to know how to make a really good dish. But I really think that it's so important, especially as I get older and wiser. I think that our connections to people and our mental health are so important.
Well, I thank you so much for being with me today. It's just always so wonderful to chat with you and hear the updates on what you guys are doing.
Yeah, well, you're awesome, Catherine. I always love to talk to you and hang out. We could talk for a long time about a lot of things. But hopefully you'll turn off the record button, right? Because we get into lots of topics, which are fun. I'm sure people would love to hear that too. But thank you for everything you do, Catherine. We really, really support you and think the world of Living Whole.
Oh.